Thanks, folks, for tuning in. Eric Loy's here along with Chris Hightower. It's good to see Chris again. Although there's much less of Chris than the last time I saw him, it's pretty amazing. You did this by accident, right? You just kind of woke up and there was only half of you there.
That's basically the way it happened, man. It was about a 2.5 year process. It took some time, but it was very, very worth it.
Yeah, it is. And I've dropped similar weights in the past, although not now, but in the past. And your high life kind of opens up a little bit.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff you look at before. I can't do that, and now I'm like, I'll give it a shot.
I always tell people the biggest change is like now I can take a bath.
Yeah.
Baths are awesome.
Yeah,
no more showers.
It's like, whoa,
you know what I'm saying? Like I get to soak now. It's a whole new world.
Check in with me in about 2 hours.
I swear, man. Ladies been holding out on us, man.
Yeah.
All the ladies know about the baths. They know about the bath salts and bath bombs and everything else.
There's a lot of things they hold out on. There's a lot of things they hold out on.
Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed on that note.
How is the comedy thing doing?
It's going. I'm actually going to be doing a show here this weekend up in Bloomington. I'm going to be doing a lot of work this summer all throughout Central Illinois and up in Chicago.
'Cause you're teaching.
Yeah,
so it's tough to do that in.
That's really what slowed down the process.
Believe it or not, teaching is a full-time
thing. Yeah. And I'd worked in the district for maybe 3 years before I started teaching, and now that I'm on that end of it, it's a whole new ball game. It's really taken me. It took me this entire semester to adjust and really get used to it and get in the swing of things. And now that I've had that time to get used to that job, I feel like now I can get back to putting on the shows that I was doing monthly here in Danville, and kind of get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, I'll talk about that teaching in just a little bit, but I want to talk about the comedy side because there are a lot of people who think they're funny, and then there are some people who are naturally gifted funny and maybe don't know it. And there's a lot of people we think are funny because we watch them trip and fall and watch them from a distance and try not to get too close. When you got started and decided to do comedy, stand-up and stuff, what type of a leap was that for you? I mean, that to me, I can't get up in front of people and do things. That's just not my thing.
Honestly, for me, it's a very complex thing. Comedy is, and when I first started doing it, it was based off of the fact that I had a coworker who told me repeatedly, you need to do comedy, you need to do comedy. And she did comedy. And she basically signed me up for an open mic over in Champaign. Yeah. And I did it, and I was good. And I always told her that I wouldn't be good at it because I'm just conversationally funny.
Right.
But once I got on stage, I mean, it was just kind of natural.
Yeah, you're not one of those folks who took classes to get up there and do it.
Yeah, I've never took a comedy class. I took a lot of communication courses, but
it does make a difference.
Yeah, and what it really comes down to, it's just about that belief that you can get on stage and do it. Comedy is extremely subjective. What I think is funny, you might not find funny, and what you find funny, I might not find funny. So I'm not going to say anybody can do stand-up comedy, but if you believe that you're funny, give it a chance because you can find your voice as you go. And as you're finding that voice, you can kind of pick up and find the audience that matches your funny. Yeah,
and that is something too. You got, I imagine, because I'm certainly not going to get up and do it anytime soon, is you've got to have your audience too. I mean, and maybe you tailor to the. And if you're in front of a bunch of older folks wearing fezzes, you're probably not going to have the same as if you were in a comedy club.
Exactly, and that's one of my benefits, or excuse me, one of the benefits that I have being where I'm from and starting comedy when I did, because this is a small market. Danville, Champaign is where I started doing stand-up.
Right.
And it is a predominantly white market. And as a black man, I had to learn how to get in front of that room and perform to that audience. You know, everything.
Still be you.
Exactly. It's not a matter of changing who you are.
Putting a character on.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, the way I look at it is this: if I'm on stage and you're in the audience, if you've paid your money or it's a free show and you've come out here, you're spending your time, you're giving your money towards having a good time. My job is to provide you with laughter. So it's not about what I want to laugh at. It's about what does this crowd want. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, being raised around here, I was raised in a diverse population to be able to know, okay, well, this joke will work here. This joke won't work here.
Right.
So I'm going to tailor my set to whoever's out there in that audience just because I want you to enjoy the experience. I want you to laugh and have fun. I feel like a lot of the comedy that we're getting nowadays is so political and it's so personalized that it's to the point where comedians are going up there and it's like, well, I think it's funny, so I don't care what you think. And at the end of the day, in my mind, that's a selfish mindset to have, because as a comedian, your job isn't to just go up there and say what you think is funny. Mm-hmm. That's a part of it, but a bigger part of it is going up there and providing what the crowd thinks is funny and trying to provide them with laughter. And I'm fortunate enough to have the type of ability to where I can, if you line me up 4 shows in 4 straight nights in front of 4 different audiences, I know I can go hit each and every audience and provide them with a show that is somewhat tailored towards them, but is still true to who I am.
And that's great because that's a reactionary sort of thing, and it is not a rote, character-based. I've seen it before, I want to see it again type of thing. You get to keep it fresh by reacting rather than acting. You know?
Definitely. That's a skill that I'm fortunate to have. I mean, I've seen a lot of stand-up here over the last 5-6 years, and not everybody can work a room.
Yeah.
You know, you got those comedians out there who have 5 notebooks full of written material, and they go over every joke with a fine-tooth comb. And I mean, I've got maybe like 2, maybe 1 to 2 notebooks with stuff in them, but a lot of what I do is work in the room, being reactionary, playing off of my audience, because that, in my opinion, and from my experiences, that gives the crowd more of a reason to enjoy the show.
They're buying into
it. And it's not
they've already bought into it by getting the ticket, but they're buying into the show.
Bingo. It gives them some sort of ownership of the show to know, like, oh, he's talking about us. And you don't do it. I see a lot of comedians do it kind of maliciously, you know what I'm saying, where you're really insulting your audience. And
there's only one Don Rickles, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in everybody knew he was in on the joke. You talk to him afterwards, and he's not going to rip you in half. But there are some who are very vicious. Yeah. But again, if you get a reputation for that, you know what you're getting into when you buy the ticket.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you go in there to see the guy who's going to rip somebody for their appearance, and your appearance gets ripped,
you gotta know that that's coming, and
you can't get too mad about it.
And the struggle is, doing so many open mics and doing smaller shows, your crowd doesn't know who they're coming to see.
And you don't know who the crowd is either.
Exactly.
So you got, I imagine you have to adjust.
Oh,
maybe start off with a few shots and see what reacts and go from there.
It comes back to just me being fortunate from my upbringing to what I majored in college to having the personality that I have. I come from a big family. So I've seen all the different types of personalities. I took
in the family.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I got 9 brothers and sisters. Yeah. So I think they say there's like 7 personalities that everybody in the world has.
Yeah.
So if I got 9 brothers and sisters, all those aunts, uncles, cousins, I've seen all of those personalities. And then
sometimes I've seen them in one relative. I get all of them.
I got a sister that definitely has a couple of those personalities.
So that's like a 45 personalities by the time you're done.
So it's just like you start to pick up on who in the crowd can take what, who in the crowd would enjoy being made a part of the show, sort of.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you figure that out and how to read a room and how to work with people, it is just, I'm fortunate that it's natural for me.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. I think even in talking with people and interviewing people over the years, and I thank you for being a part of this kind of intro start. It's more of a conversation, and people who are listening to it get involved in it, because I think no matter what you're doing, as an entertainment person, you have to, if you don't involve the audience in some way, you're talking to a wall, and you might as well just, talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And you are talking to yourself in some instances.
Certainly.
And imagine if you're getting up there and you see somebody else go up and laugh at themselves, but nobody else is laughing with them. That would kill me.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
I hate when I see a comic go up there and tell a joke and the joke falls flat, but they're on stage dying laughing. It's like, dude, no, it's not working. That's not working. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it, like I said, man, it really comes back to being able to talk to people and provide people with an experience, because like you just said, it's really a conversation, like an interview. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I don't do real interviews. I do conversations.
Yeah. A lot of people will view an interview as, well, I've got these 15 questions and I want to ask these questions and get these answers. And if you were to parse that down to just maybe 4 questions and then just ask one question and then just go from there, you would get a much better response and a much better product.
I worked with somebody before who had that type of thing as a radio interviewer, and she would ask a question and the answer would come out, but there would be an obvious follow-up to go and find out some interesting story that wasn't part of it, but she'd go to the next question and miss that opportunity. There are so many things you miss by doing that. It really does. It so much nuance is lost.
Definitely.
By that, and personality is lost with that. And I can only imagine what that's like on stage. There's got to be some times when you've gone up there and didn't know who the audience was, and fired a couple off, and was like, okay, this isn't going. Now I really got to dig in and find something.
I mean, I've bombed. I've had moments where it was like, why am I doing this? You know what I'm saying? I've had shows where I questioned my entire comedy career.
Am I awake?
Yeah. Like, I did a show for a small crowd out in Westville one time, and I'll never forget this dude, like, in the middle of the set. It's at I don't remember what bar it was at, but it was at one of the smaller bars in Westville, and it's maybe 8-9 people there. And this dude just gets up in the middle, and the stage wasn't too high, so it was like we were almost on the same level.
Yeah.
And dude just literally walked up to me, told me, "You're not funny." And I was just like, whoa, like, the crowd's not laughing, and this random drunk man just walked up to me and told me I'm not funny. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time I get out of here. This might not
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Make sure to tip the waitress.
Right. Thank you for coming. God bless and good night.
Yeah.
But it's all an experience. It's all a part of the experience. It's a journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, this comedy thing, when I first started, I thought, oh, I'll be famous in a year because I'm just that funny. And here it is, like 6 years later, and I have a good following. Yeah. But there's still so much more to do. Yeah. And I appreciate it way more now than I did when I first started.
Well, you're older now, for one. And you've got a little bit more realistic view of the world. Hopefully that hasn't tempered your optimism and drive.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I still feel like at the end of the day, I'm going to be a household name. You know what I'm saying? It's half of everything you do is about belief. Right. It's about believing. It's the same thing you were taught as a kid when you fell off your bike. You got to get back up on there and you got to ride it. You got to keep trying. You got to keep giving it that effort, and eventually you'll see the breakthrough. And I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of amazing comedians that are doing amazing things, and seeing them have the success they're having is like, that to me is more motivation, because it's like, man, I see that it's right there. I see that it's attainable. Now I just got to do this, this, and this, and my time will come.
Have you always had that confidence?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've always been a very self-confident person, but I've always had that little bit of self-doubt that, you know what I'm saying, in your back. Everybody has it. That voice in the back of your head that questions whether or not you can do something. I think I've always been able to portray and present an image of always having that. But at my core, I know that where I am at now is light years away from where I used to be. You know, that's one thing that I've always done theater and drama, so acting and putting on
getting on stage,
performing is easy for me. And that's not I consider that kind of a humble brag, you know, like it's just something that comes naturally to me. So for the longest time I could easily put on that front like, oh no, I'm the most confident man in the room, and people would just be like, I don't get it, Chris is just always happy. And
it's so easy for him. There's no work behind that at all.
Yeah, you know, but you know what I'm saying, inside it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. But now I'm just to a point where and I honestly feel like what you said a moment ago really kind of like wraps it all up. Like I'm older, I'm more mature, I've experienced a little bit of life.
Yeah.
And that's one thing and I take that into my teaching. You know what I'm saying? I work with 8th graders, and one thing I try to tell them is like, dude,
man,
I've experienced a little bit of life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, and I remember I told one kid one day, I was like, you really believe that? And he was like, yeah, I believe it. And I don't even remember what it was about. But I said, I just want you to know that's stupid. And he was like, you calling me stupid, Mr. Hightower? I said, look, I'm not calling you stupid to say that you're dumb or you can't think.
Everything you do is dumb.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is, and I had to tell him, I'm like, what I'm telling you is this thought that you're having, that's stupid. And the reason I can tell you that is because I've lived life maybe 20 years longer than you. And I told him, I said, understand, if I was sitting with somebody that's 55, 60, there's certain topics that would come up and they would look me square in my face and tell me, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And it would be because they've experienced that. They've been through that. And we live in a generation right now that people are so wrapped up in getting things immediately. There's such an immediacy to everything that these kids don't enjoy the process of learning. They don't enjoy the process of figuring something out. No. You know, nowadays you can just pick up your phone, ask Siri or type something into Google and you get the answer. But you didn't learn anything.
Right.
You know, you just got the answer. We need to like kind of take that away a little bit and let people look, you've got to fall on your face a couple of times.
Yeah, it's a journey to learning it, and sometimes you find new pathways.
Yeah, it's the critical thinking element.
That helps everybody along the way. The fact that you're teaching 8th graders, could you have picked a tougher age of kids to teach? Because they know everything, they know nothing.
Yeah.
They are both extremely strong and extremely fragile. The hormones are zinging around like comets, and who knows what Linda Bolton says, bringing their little red wagon to school. Who knows what's in their little red wagon from home? I applaud you for that, because getting in with your sanity and helping them out at the same time, it's got to be difficult.
For me, because I could have worked at Mark Denman. It's no longer East Park. It's now Mark Denman Elementary. But I didn't want to work there because I didn't want to work with that age group. I wanted to work in Northridge because I prefer working with that age group. I feel like high school kids are a little bit more set in their ways, and they know everything, but they don't have that self-doubt about it. Like when you're in high school, you know everything. There's nothing you can tell me. And tell you.
Tell a high school kid, you get that stone face come up and they're gone.
Exactly.
Go on to the next topic.
Exactly. And with this age group, they think they know everything, but like you just said, they're so strong-willed, but they're extremely fragile. So I prefer working with that age group because it's like, okay, I'm going to challenge the things that you sit here and that you believe. And you're at an age where you have enough vulnerability to accept that challenge. And as long as it's done the right way, you know what I'm saying? I know there's some kids.
Not breaking them down.
Exactly.
Starting from scratch.
It's like you got to kind of like, I compare it to untying a huge knot. You know what I'm saying? You can't just reach in there and pull a string, because that could make the whole knot collapse and make it tighter. Right. You know what I'm saying? You have to kind of like look at it, examine it, pull a string here, pull a string there, loosen it up.
Yeah, looping
you got to loosen it a little bit, and then you'll see that you'll be able to figure out, okay, so this is why this is and this is why that is. Because I got kids now that there are some kids that to motivate them, they need a firm, hey man, stop.
Yeah.
Do what I asked you to do. And then there are some kids that need a, hey, what's wrong? Come talk to me. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, especially in this generation and this population, is like you just said what Linda Bolton says. What are they bringing to school in that red wagon today?
Right.
I don't know what happened to you at home. I don't know what your home life experience is like.
Right.
I have you Monday through Friday from 9 to 3:45, and then I don't even really have you for that long because you're just right.
Yeah.
I have you for 50 minutes, 50 minutes out of the day. So if I can't take the time to...
Here you go, Chris. Raise my kid. 50 minutes.
I tell you, I've had situations this semester that really changed my entire view on teaching because my sister's been a teacher for 20 years. 20 years. And she always would tell me about some of these parents really want you to raise their kids.
Oh, absolutely.
And now that I'm in that situation and I see it firsthand, it's like, whoa, I didn't realize you were that serious. Like, there are really some parents that, you know what I'm saying, they expect you to do everything and they don't really expect to have to do anything. And it's like, dude, like...
Yeah. And if you don't come through,
and
something happens with the young person, it's your fault.
And it's crazy how that dynamic has shifted over the years. Because when I was a kid, and I hate saying that because it makes me feel so old. Well,
you're old and you're talking to me. I mean, I remember when I first started radio, it was 2 rocks.
Ooh.
So there you go. I talk about, and I've talked with a couple folks here while doing the podcast, is I look at what the family dynamic used to be, and when I was growing up in the 70s, you still had the nuclear family. Now you kind of have the nuclear fallout family.
Yeah.
Where a lot of families, and I don't care what racial background you're from or what town you're from or whether you're in the sticks or whether you're in the middle of the city, you've got a matriarch, you've got a woman in charge, which is, they should be in charge for crying out loud, but a lot of times they're in charge of several different families.
Yeah.
And there is no mother or father person. There may be a grandmother, maybe an aunt, and they're in charge of raising a bunch of kids. And they're nailing Jello to the wall.
Yeah.
Because the kids, you have all different personalities coming together, and you don't have the cohesiveness, good or bad, that we had in the 70s and early 80s.
And me growing up, my dad wasn't necessarily in the house, but he was here in this town. So I knew where he was at. I saw him regularly. If I got in trouble, I knew he was going to be there. I had a father.
Yeah, you had a role model that you could go with.
And
I'm not disparaging the ladies who are taken care of because they're forces of nature.
The thing about it, and I say this all the time, I used to work at Kenneth D. Bailey, and that's the alternative school.
Right.
So I used to work there, and I would come across a lot of young ladies who would have the mindset that, oh, I can do it on my own if I have a baby. And that's a mindset that we've, I don't want to say we've pushed it, but it's a mindset that has become accepted. And what I always tell those young ladies is this: look, if you give me a tandem bicycle, the bikes with the 2 seats, the tandem bicycle, and I go out there by myself, yeah, I could ride that bike. But if I want that bike to work optimally, if I want it to work at it the way it is designed to work, it's going to take 2 people.
Right.
And I don't see why you would say I can do it on my own when you didn't conceive it on your own. No. And that mindset is so toxic in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you end up in situations where that child grows up and doesn't have that balance.
Yeah.
There's a balance. To me, there's a balance that you get from having a mother and a father, or a mother and a mother, or a father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whenever you get into that, it becomes a murky situation. But I've always felt that a 2-parent household is going to work better than a one-parent household, simply because that provides that child with a balance. You get two perspectives instead of one.
It is tougher, I would think, to be successful coming out of that situation. And again, no disrespect to the people who are doing it, because you're working your tails off, and more power to you. God love you. I do, because you're doing what you can.
I honestly believe that most individuals in that situation that have been dealing in that situation would tell you, I would love some help. I would love for the other parent to step up and do this or that. I would love to have somebody in my life that I could put some of this on. And that's really where the balance comes from. That the balance that I'm speaking on is the fact that when you're by yourself and you got to do everything, like, that's a lot to put on your shoulders.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility and a burden that is supposed to be shared.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's the benefit. It's the fact that, okay, kid needs picked up at 4:30. I don't get off work till 6.
Got to find some way to do it.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you've got another person, guess what? Yeah. Okay, maybe I get off at 3 so I can go pick them up. Yeah. It's the little
things you
things.
Can rely on.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing. Do you realize that in the last several minutes, you have described your background, what you're doing, your goals, and you have set out basically yourself as a role model to follow?
Honestly, I would not say that I am.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't say it, but the confidence, the ability to get up and perform in front of people who are direct up, literally in your face, telling you can't do it. But the stick-to-itiveness and growing up in a large family and all of this, and now you're working with kids at that 8th grade level where they still don't really know who they are, but they think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just throwing a big old yoke on you. Here you go, boom. Now teach everybody. But you've got to follow by example.
Yeah, it
puts a lot on you, doesn't it?
What my mom used to always tell me, and she told me this from probably about 7th, 8th grade, and I kind of feel like this is one of the reasons why that's the age group I prefer to work with. She told me, you're either going to be a teacher, a preacher, or a politician. Because when you talk, people listen, and you know how to make sense out of things. And for the longest time, I kind of ran from that, because it was like who? No, you can't tell me what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be. I'm going to do whatever I want to. Like,
welcome to being a kid. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah,
I'm going to be a fireman.
Yeah. And then it carried over to college, because all of my brothers and sisters are teachers. My brother Darius he's in the internship program at Mark Denman, working to become a principal. My sister Doris has been teaching for 20 plus years in the district. My brother Derek actually runs, and this to me is like the funniest thing, because he runs a daycare in St. Joe. You know what I'm saying? So if I told you that this black guy runs a daycare in St. Joe, Illinois, you would be like, what?
Yeah.
But that's what he does. Like, all of my brothers and sisters work with kids. And I was always the one that said, no, I'm not going to do that. But I was always good at it, and I enjoyed it. And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. And I just eventually got to a point where it was like, you know what? You can't run from who you are. You can't run from what you are. And if you have a gift, it comes back to the old song, This Little Light of Mine.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And the song just says, I'm going to let it shine. Like, that's my gift. That's my ability. And I feel the same with my comedy, you know what I'm saying, as I do with this ability to work with the youth and try to give back. Like, it's what I excel at. And I would be cheating myself if I didn't do that, if I didn't give that back, if I didn't sit down with these 7th and 8th graders and tell them, like, hey, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do this, understand this is why this is why that is. And in my classroom, I'm honest. I don't sugarcoat things with the kids. I let them know, like, look, I had to have a talk with them at the end of the school year, and I told them, and it was rough, because I had several faces look up at me like, what?
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, look, you guys are being promoted from 8th grade to 9th grade, and I'm going to tell you something right now, and it's going to hurt some of you, but it's just the truth. In 4 years, you're supposed to be graduating high school. Some of the people in this room won't make it. Some of the people in this room might end up with a charge. They might end up in jail and prison. Some of you might just end up with a child. Life is going to happen, and it's going to be based on the decisions you make and the situations you put yourself in. So if you want to avoid all of those issues, you need to be very conscious of the situations you put yourself in, because the situations you put yourself in determine the decisions you have to make. You know, that choice of saying, you know what, I'm going to go hang out with this group of friends. If you know that group of friends is prone to getting into trouble, right? If you know that group of friends is prone to being in bad situations, you decide to go hang out with them. Guess what? Now you've put yourself in this situation, right? And you're going to have to, and there's going to come a moment in that situation where you have to make a decision for you.
Yeah, and it's going to affect everything else you do. Yeah. You know, Chris, come back. So
most definitely.
Folks who want to find out what you're up to with the comedy, how can you do that?
You can get on my Facebook. My Facebook page is Christopher Hightower. My comedy page is Chris Hightower. Chris Hightower, comedian Chris Hightower, excuse me. Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at funnychigh, FUNNYCHIGH. I'll be honest, my Instagram is just pictures of me and my son for the most part.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, and Twitter is
no bikini pictures, right? No.
Please. I don't got any of those yet.
I mean, it's
coming though.
Better than it was.
I'm telling you, give me about 3 to 4 months, and I'm gonna be out here speedoed up, ready to show the world.
I'm not ready for that. No. Thanks for coming on. We'll do it again.
Definitely, most definitely.